Hello, all you tiny, beautiful people that live inside my computer. My name's Finn, and welcome back to the Big Spider-Man Pitch. Today's episode, Spectacular Spider-Man Last Hunt. That title definitely doesn't give away who the villain of this film is. Anyways, quick disclaimer, I was working on a video to go before this one, and I couldn't find a way to make it work for the story, so I scrapped it. And instead I'm using this as an introduction to a character who would have been introduced through that, but I couldn't find a way to make that work. So it got scrapped, it got booted, and we're going to be moving forward without it. And with that out of the way, in the first three films, we get openings similar to that of the Raimi trilogy and the two Amazing films, and sort of similar to the Home trilogy over in the MCU, where it typically opens on Spider-Man. It opens on the mask, it opens on the symbol at the back, it opens on a swing, whatever it may be. And that's fine, that's interesting, and I did that in the first three, but I feel like if you keep redoing that, it kind of loses what makes it such an interesting scene. It loses that, like, how special it is to be Spider-Man, how special it is to be swinging around the city and all that. I apologize if I'm playing with the cat. I love him. I love him. I'll be right back. I have to play with the cat. But in this film, I want to open on Peter. I want to open on Peter Parker. I want to open on what he's dealing with, rather than some big, spectacular fight or deal with a criminal. I would much rather it be something smaller, something a little more detailed and a little more complex. And that being Peter Parker dealing with his mistakes from the last film. For example, whenever the last film ended, Gwen Stacy was not dead, as she is in a lot of things where the Green Goblin drops her, but this time in a coma, in a comatose state, stuck. And her father, Captain Stacy, is very unhappy with Spider-Man. However, Captain Stacy does not know who it is that Spider-Man is, therefore he has no reason to be upset with Peter, and we see Peter visiting Gwen. We see Peter sat beside her, and we see him worried, we see him confused, we see him hurt by what he has let happen, and we see that Captain Stacy is there and that he's consoling Peter. He hugs Peter, tells him it's not his fault, not knowing that Peter is Spider-Man and not knowing that it is his fault, in quotations, heavy quotations, because it's never actually your fault if somebody gets hurt while you're trying, right? And then through this, Captain Stacy talks and he expresses how much that he cares about Peter, how much Peter is like a son to him, how much he understands that Peter would have done anything to save her, and that it's not his fault, and that he's going to catch the bastard who did it. He's going to catch Spider-Man. He's going to fix that problem. And that causes Peter to feel a little icky, but he just smiles, shakes his head, understands, and then he leaves. He's walking home, and it's like, okay, we got the sad thing out of the way. Maybe we'll get something positive. Maybe we'll get something better in this next bit. And he's on his way home, and we see a mugging happen straight to his left, and he rolls his eyes, goes up the building, gets into a suit, handles the situation, and instead of being treated like this big fun deal, we see this version of Peter that is viewing being Spider-Man almost as a chore, rather than seeing it as something fun, as something exuberant, and something to put his energy into. It's something that he doesn't want to be doing in this moment. Not that he wants to stop, but that it's not fitting of what is the best for him personally. He handles it, he does everything, he does the right thing, but he's not quippy, he's not making his normal jokes, or he's making jokes and they're less than energetic. They're more so filling the silence than adding to any sort of dialogue that he can have. We see him handle it. He gives the stuff back to the person who was just robbed or whatever. And then he swings off. He goes home, into Aunt May's home. He goes in, and he hugs May. And it's fine for just a minute. Just for a moment, it's okay. And then, as the camera pans away from them after a hug, we see the home is foreclosed. We'll get back to that, but for now, it's not the focal point as we finally get a swing. 5 or so minutes, 6 minutes, whatever it is, into the film, we finally get a swing. And it's shown like it was in the last 3. It's shown like it has been throughout all Spider-Man media. It's shown as this big, vibrant, exuberant, personality-based, fun thing. And it's going, and there's trumpets and triumphant sounds, and as Peter's going, something's different. Something's off, something's wrong, and he misses. He shoots a web, he tries to grab it, and he just doesn't get it, and he falls. He didn't randomly stop shooting. He still had the fluid in his cartridge and all that. He shoots the web, and he's not thinking. He's not consciously doing stuff. He's just kind of moving. And he falls. He catches himself. He doesn't, fall into traffic or anything. He catches himself. He's okay. But he's hesitant after he catches himself. He stops. He looks around. He looks at his wrists. He looks forward. And then he swings. And it's fine. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't do a whole lot. But he pauses. He goes back to swinging, and it seems like he's okay. After this scene, we have a short montage of Peter dealing with some villains, have him deal with just a bunch of random, guys who aren't super important. Until he runs into someone who's different. He runs into the first monster that he's seen in a few months. He runs into a man who almost looks like a bear. He's lost, he's confused. His eyes aren't exactly menacing, very much that of an animal that's cornered, an animal that is scared. And this man, this bear, runs away. Peter chases him, stops him, and tries to communicate with him, but the man can't speak. Whenever he tries, roars come out, growls come out. He doesn't look angry, he doesn't look like he wants to hurt this person who chased him. He just looks confused. And Peter is also extremely confused, and he tries to have a dialogue with the guy. He tries to tell him, "Are you okay? Hey, blah, blah, blah." He keeps going. And that continues until the bear unintentionally sends Peter flying. The bear is not someone who is intentionally causing damage. He's just a fucking huge bear man running away from something, who knows what. And Peter just gets fucking mollywopped by him. Just one big shot sends Peter flying. The man didn't necessarily expect all of that, but it gives him a moment to leave, and he runs away. Peter slams into a dumpster, looks down, is a little confused as to what just happens, puts together it's probably an Oscorp thing, maybe what initially made the Vulture, maybe what made the Goblin, maybe those things got out after Norman was put into an institution. Maybe. But he doesn't know, it's just a working theory. We then see a very short scene of Peter meeting with Harry, they hug, Harry asks if he's okay, they have a short conversation, and Peter talks to someone. We haven't seen him do that before, we haven't seen him talk to anyone but Gwen up until this point about things that are negative to him. He's trying to be positive, he's trying to be helpful, he's trying to be a hero. And in this situation, he can't do that. He explains to Harry that he's confused, he's conflicted, he doesn't know what he's doing, he doesn't know where he needs to be, he doesn't know what to do. High school's over, he needs to find something to do. He has his part-time job, but that doesn't fulfill him. He's not doing anything worthwhile. Harry stops for a minute and brings up the idea of going to college, which Peter's always wanted to do, but Peter hasn't had the opportunities to. Even though he's one of the smartest people on the planet, he's one of the smartest kids in the world, that doesn't always carry people. He doesn't get a grant, he doesn't get a scholarship, and it's looking like he's not going to get to do a whole lot with that until Harry has a short conversation with him. Harry sits with Peter, and he expresses that his dad has saved up a lot of money to send Harry to college. Very, very high amounts even. Hundreds of thousands of dollars are set just in case, because if Harry fails and has to do another year, he'll have to pay another, whatever it may be. Norman's not exactly confident in Harry's intellectual abilities. Not that Harry is dumb or anything. Harry's an intelligent guy, just that his dad isn't the hugest fan of him and thinks he's a slacker. So he's put a lot of money for it. Enough for there to be a lot of insurance behind the idea of Harry failing. And Harry sits with Pete and talks about, well, I'm not planning on using all of it on me. Maybe I can help you. And Peter very much appreciates it. He loves the idea. He's very thankful, very grateful. But it feels wrong to take it from Harry, especially after all that Harry's lost in these past few years. His mother being lost only a couple years before the whole Spider-Man thing, and then growing away from Peter due to the Spider-Man thing, figuring it out, blah, blah, blah. Losing Gwen at the same time as his dad has been hard on him, and Peter doesn't want to take from him. He doesn't want to take away from whatever he has. But Harry insists. He says, before the Spider-Man thing, you were like a brother to me. My dad's always loved you. I'm sure if he was stable, he would agree. They have a short little dialogue about it, and Peter takes a sec, and then he compromises. He expresses that he will take Harry's deal if Peter Parker isn't the only person to gain from it. As long as other kids are given opportunities and given the ability to use this to grow, random people chosen, then he'll take the deal. But he won't do it if he's the only one getting help from it, which is a very Peter Parker way to feel about something like that. I won't do it if it's only me, but if you're going to help other people accept it, it's a very responsible Spider-Man thing to do. And then we leave that scene as they hug. We've had a lot of hugs so far. Pretty cool. Don't know if that'll matter. Anyways, then we see this bear running again. We see him sprinting away. This time, he's not in Manhattan, he's in Brooklyn. He is running and he's hiding out in alleyways. And then we hear a Russian man speaking. And the man, pretty dry, like, linguistics. Nothing too fancy, nothing elegant, just flat. No, like, peaks and whatnot in what he's saying. He just very straight, cut and dry. He talks about how this person, this creature, whatever it may be, has been given an opportunity to be one of the most powerful creatures on the planet. You have the brain of a man in the body of a beast, and you're squandering it. You're wasting it. And then the man reveals himself to be Sergei Kravenov. He doesn't say all of that. He just refers to himself as the Hunter. We as the audience are pretty well aware of who that is. But he shows up, and he just walks towards the man. The bear isn't too afraid of this, considering he spent a fucking... Man, he sent a dude flying by accident earlier. So, he's not too worried. Kraven steps up to him. Kraven does not have any weapons or anything. The bear lunges at him, expecting it to be his chance to get away, and Kraven immediately puts that shit down. He hits the man in the gut, goes behind him, uses pressure points, pushes him down, and then ties him up without needing to tranquilize him or anything. He just takes him down, ties him up, and then drags him away. And that's our introduction to Kraven. That's it. No big villainous monologue, just he saw the opportunity to take out this beast, and he does. At this point, we have not been told he is Kraven or Sergei Kravenov or anything like that. Just he's the Hunter. That is all we know of him. That and that he took out this bear thing, and people are like, oh, cool. People being me and you. In universe, nobody's seen him. Following this, we get another very short montage. This time much shorter than the first one of Peter taking out a bunch of villains, until he runs across someone who's also different. Peter finds another man. This time, a weird creature. It's not noticeable what it is at first. It's hairy, but it's not fluffy. It is lanky, but it's not exactly super big. He doesn't know what the creature is until he notices a tail. He puts together that it's a rat, and then he goes for it. He knows that the last time he saw one of these guys, he got fucking thrown. So he is cautious. He understands that there's probably something going on that's pretty big and a problem, and he doesn't want to be too careless about it. He goes in and he pounces on him, and he does what he can to hold him down, and it works really, really easily, and the man starts whining about it. He's very unhappy. And we're then having people in the street screaming that he is a vermin. Ooh, he's the vermin from the comic books. Oh my gosh. Anyways, Peter doesn't realize that this guy is nowhere near as strong as the last one. That big guy, the bear, did a lot of damage. This guy can barely walk right now, and Peter pounced on him. He gets off of the guy. He apologizes for being so, forceful. And the rat man slowly stands up, wraps his tail around Peter's foot, yanks him, makes him fall, and starts sprinting away. Peter turns the corner to get him, but as he turns the corner, a tranq dart just nails the man in the neck. He slides over, slams into his face, and down comes Kraven. Peter is like, oh, cool, pest control. Ha ha. Kraven does not react at all. He doesn't even look at Peter. He just grabs the guy, ties his hands up, lifts him, walks over to his big van. And Peter's like, okay, so webs up the door so he can't get in. So are you with the police, or are you a vigilante? What's the deal? Kraven still says nothing. He just grabs a knife, through the webs, knife down, opens the door, put the man's in, close it. Peter jumps onto the vehicle this time and is like, hey, if you're a crazy evil guy, I kind of need to know. Kraven sighs for a sec, pulls a cover off of the back of the van, revealing the Kraven thing. And in this, he's sort of like in the Spectacular Show, where Kraven was a movie star, sorta. People were very excited to see him be the Hunter. In this, it's less so that, and it's more so like a Bear Grylls sort of thing, where he's not doing, well, I guess Bear Grylls is reality. Point is, he's not a reality star or anything. He's just a hunter who's recorded. Peter's like, okay, cool. You're gonna do something with him that's productive. And he's like, yes. It's the first word we hear from him is the word yes. That's all Kraven has said so far. To Peter. He talked with the grizzly earlier, but, that's the first talk with a human he's had. He doesn't even look at Peter through this. He barely notices that he's there. And then Peter is like, alright, fair enough, and leaves. And he's like, use the tranq dart. He didn't just kill the guy. He's world famous. He's not gonna do something stupid, right? Right? Anyways, next scene. We see Peter finally have a positive note. We had him talking with Harry earlier about college and stuff, but here we actually get a confirmation of it. Peter and Harry meet with some people, and are having a quick conversation about both of them going to the same college, dorm stuff, blah, blah, blah. And it comes to the point where they have to talk about what it is they're going to go for. And Peter has to stop and think. Because he could do stuff for photography, which he's been working on. He could start doing stuff with genetics. He could start doing stuff with biology. He could start doing electromagnetic field garbage, because Peter is so goddamn smart. There's so many opportunities for him, and Harry's not exactly holding back on what Peter can do with the money. Peter takes a minute, and they're talking, and at this point, they're just figuring it out. There's no contracts being signed, no money being handed over today, just figuring out the accommodations, figuring out all of the stuff about where they need to be, and what it is they're going to be doing. And Peter's a little lost, because he can't decide. There's so much he can do, but he doesn't know what he should do. And that's kind of a through line of the character of Spider-Man for the past 60 years, is he knows what he should. He typically has all of these options because he's so smart, he's so strong. But then the question comes to not what can he do, but what should he do. And a lot of times there is that selfish versus selfless thing, where Peter has two options ahead of him, one of which is responsible, one isn't. And oftentimes Peter, Ben, Miles, whoever it is going to go with that responsible option. And whenever they don't, it's a big deal. But then there are things like this where multiple of them are good, responsible things. Journalism is valid and important. Like, that's there. Artistic stuff, like the photography, is very important. Then you have all of the stuff that he could help with, scientific fields, medical fields, with inventions, with all of this stuff that is high IQ stuff that he could help with. And now the problem isn't this is responsible and this isn't. It's these are all positives. These are all things that help people. But which thing is going to help the most people? Which thing is going to make me the happiest? And which thing am I going to be able to live off of? Peter has almost an existential, freak out over it, because he can't figure out what to do. And he knows that if he could ask Ben, if he could ask Gwen, either of those two would be able to help him. But he can't. And he apologizes to Harry. He expresses that he has to go do some stuff. And Harry's understanding, but he's not exactly convinced that Peter isn't feeling something different. Peter then leaves. We get another swinging scene. This time Peter doesn't miss a shot and grab of the web. Instead he's on a wall, and he's stuck to it, and he's staring down. And he's just waiting for something. Some sign, some audio, something to make him move, because he's just standing there, sitting there, whatever it is, up against this wall, high up. He's just waiting for something, because he can't make a decision about what he's going to do professionally. So he stops and he tries to make a decision on what he should do right now, what he should do as Spider-Man, and he can't. Then he hears sirens and immediately turns to them, and he goes to jump, but his hand doesn't let go. He looks back to it, he looks down to his other hand, he finally pulls the other one off, and then he jumps and swings. Peter is not losing his powers. This isn't the Sam Raimi thing, but instead it's more of a performance issue. It's more of a fear reaction. He doesn't know what he wants to do, because the last time he listened to what the spider senses told him to do is when Gwen got hurt. And he just doesn't know if he can trust them to do the correct thing. And we're going to see him battle with that throughout. We're going to see him battle with that on little things, and then later on some bigger stuff. But that is a through line of this film. We see him get to these sirens, and it is a man who's taller than the last, but not quite as big as the bear man. And this time he's not quite the same features. He's not looking like a bear. He doesn't look like any rat. He doesn't look like a dog. He doesn't look like an animal. He just looks like a monster. Almost like a smaller version of the Goblin. Less flying, though. And he sees that man being held down by one Kraven the Hunter. Kraven is holding the man down. He has not used a shrink dart or anything. He's just got his knee on the back of his head, and he pulls out a knife, and he goes to stab it into this man, and Peter immediately yanks that fucking knife away. He yanks the knife away, kicks Kraven. Kraven slaps against the wall, falls forward. Jackal gets up and sprints. It's the Jackal. He starts sprinting away. Peter grabs him with webs, pulls him, slams him, webs him to the ground, blah, blah, blah. He turns to Kraven and explains, like, hey, whoa, heavy artillery is not needed on a bug. Ha, he's Spider-Man. The other guy is definitely not a bug. You get the point. Sergei is a little miffed. He gets up, pushes Peter, goes over to Jackal. Kraven is not interested in Spider-Man. There's not an interest in this guy because Kraven is looking for a hunt. He's looking for a fight. He's looking for whatever you want to describe that as. Peter's not going to do that. He's watched Spider-Man. He knows what Spider-Man does, and Spider-Man's not going to be a hunt. He's just going to make jokes. He's going to... If he wins, he's just going to tie me up? That's it? He's a little bored by the idea of Spider-Man. And this leads to a little head-to-head thing. They like... Well, I say they yap. Peter talks a lot. Kraven barely speaks. Until Peter strikes a bit of a nerve with Kraven. He causes a little bit of a reaction. The reaction comes because they realize that the Jackal has pockets. He has pants on. They dig in his pockets to see... Well, I say they. Peter digs in the pockets to see if he can find an ID, anything like that, and he does. He finds a wallet. And it belongs to one Miles Warren, somebody who Peter has a very short experience in conversating with and a very short experience in working for, because Gwen worked for him. And this leads to Peter turning and being like, hey, you were going to kill him. He's a good man. And this is what sets Kraven off. This is what causes the reaction. And this is the first time we've seen Kraven show emotion. And it's a weird mix because there's some anger in there, but there's also like a smug excitement behind what he's going to say. And I'm stealing this from Insomniac. But Kraven expresses that there are no good men, only good prey, which sends chills down Peter's spine, because that is fucking crazy. They get into a little back-to-back, back-and-forth thing. They fight for a minute. Peter's not exactly punching full force or anything, but he's not holding back as much as he typically does. On a normal person, Peter's not exactly going to be trying too much, due to the fact that, he could rip them in half if he wanted to. And Kraven's noticing this. Kraven is putting all of his effort forward. He's trying really hard. And he's failing to beat this person who he views as beneath him. And that leads to some negative reactions. He starts grunting. He starts to have like a bit of a redness to his face. He's like visibly frustrated. And then Peter just bullies him for a sec. Peter's not hitting him or anything. No kicks, no punches, no webs. Just moving. Just Ultra Instinct Goku. Just like out of the way. But Peter's not using his spider sense to do that because he doesn't trust it. Instead, he's just kind of watching Kraven. His brain's faster. He's just moving out of the way, watching him. And he says, you know what? I'm bored. And Kraven gets pissed. Kraven is considerably angrier than he was. He gets really pissed off, and he charges at Peter. Peter just fucking jumps really high in the air, hangs upside down, looks down and says, okay, anyways, I'm gonna go deal with the weird thing. And he points over to the Jackal. They both turn their heads, and the Jackal is gone. Kraven, very frustrated, palms his face a little bit, and then just turns around and walks off. He doesn't give Peter the time of day. He doesn't talk. He doesn't make a joke. He doesn't, threaten him. He doesn't talk about it. He just walks off. Peter scratches at the back of his mask for a sec. He looks over and he's just like, I don't understand that guy. I don't trust him, but, what more can you do there? He's a hunter, blah, blah, blah. Peter can argue with him over the semantics of that, but, giant monster, hunter, he'll deal with it when he can. And the guy's like a movie star, cameras are on him all the time. What's gonna happen? I beat him up? And then what? You know? And then scene ends, Peter's swinging, and as he's swinging, there's a billboard, a big electronic billboard, and it's J. Jonah Jameson talking about how talking about how Spider-Man allowed the Jackal to get away from Kraven the Hunter. A true American hero, says J. Jonah Jameson. Kraven is billed from Africa because he lives there, but from Russia. Not American, but it's fine. And Peter is frustrated, to say the least. And following this, we get another Aunt May scene. I haven't used May too much in those first 3 films. I used her as the ending of the first one. I used her as a integral part of the second and third, but I haven't used her to her fullest. And I feel like it's important to do that. So we're gonna have another May scene. Peter is at the hospital. He is in a chair, fiddling with his thumbs, just sat by Gwen. He doesn't have too much to do, too much to say. He just waits. And then he starts talking to her. She can't react, but he's speaking. He expresses how sorry he is. He expresses how unhappy he is with her situation. He expresses how worried he is about himself, worried he is about Harry, worried he is about May, but he especially brings up how worried he is about Captain Stacy, how worried he is about Gwen's father, how worried he is about Spider-Man. And he doesn't refer to Spider-Man as himself. He refers to him as a separate being, as if they're not one person. And then he stops after he says that last bit about Spider-Man, and he thinks. He says he's sorry again, and then he lays his head back, and he falls asleep. We haven't seen Peter rest, ever. And right now, we finally get a moment. And I don't know if it's necessarily rest, but he's sleeping. You know, he's more comfortable than he has been in a while. And that's a little crazy considering that he's beside his girlfriend who has been put into a coma. Peter falls asleep. And then he has a dream. He hears the voice of Uncle Ben. He never sees him. Just hears the voice. And Ben expresses how proud he is of Peter Parker. But then that pride, slowly changes, and Ben talks about how proud he is of Spider-Man. And Peter asks the voice, why specifically Spider-Man? And then Ben's voice comes back and says, because that's the only time you're not lying. Peter wakes up. He's a bit sweaty. He's confused. He looks around and he sees Aunt May sitting beside him. May looks over with a smile, holds his hand for a sec, asks him what's up. He just says he was having a bad dream. And then May talks to him, gives him some advice. She asks him, why are you going to school, Pete? Why? Peter expresses that he wants to change the world. May nods her head, and she says, yes, I know. You're Ben's nephew, you would. But why are you going? Why is Peter Parker going? He pauses for a sec. He doesn't really have an answer. And even after thinking about it, he doesn't have an answer. So he looks up and he says, I don't know. I don't know why I'm going. I guess I just need to grow up. And that doesn't sit well with May. She stops her smile and she squeezes his hand, and then she expresses that he's the most responsible teenager that she's ever expected to be around, she's ever been around, she's ever known. She then expresses that he's more responsible now than she was in her 20s. And he takes that as like a joke. And then she goes, "No, seriously, your Uncle Ben, he calmed me down." And Peter looks a little suspicious, like, "Okay, lie to me." And then she expresses that she had a bit too much going on whenever she was in high school and whenever she went to college, but too much. Not all negative, just a lot. Just a lot. From a lot of places, just a lot. And he calmed that down. He didn't fix her, didn't stop her. He supported her. But through his support, she had the self-support needed to figure out what she needed to do. And May expresses that Peter is more responsible than she was up until after her and Ben ended up being together. And she rests her head on his shoulder for a second. She expresses that she misses Ben. Peter lays his head over, agrees, expresses how much he misses his uncle. And then he apologizes to her. He tells May that he's sorry for being distant. He tells May that he's sorry for everything. And she seems a little confused. She doesn't really understand it. And then she goes, "Well, it's not easy being Spider-Man, huh?" Peter takes a minute, looks a little confused. Peter is kind of flabbergasted, kind of blown away. May says, "Well, you're just like Ben. He also could not keep secrets." Peter laughs for a second, tries to say haha, good joke, May. She's like, "Peter, I'm not stupid. I'm just old." He expresses that he wasn't trying to call her dumb or anything, no disrespect and all that. And she goes, I know. You're going through a lot. You're doing a lot. I'm proud of you." And he tears up slightly. And I know he's proud of you too. He tears up more. And hugs her for a sec. And then we zoom out the window and zoom away really slowly across to the next building where Kraven is watching. He is staring. He has binoculars, he's looking in, and he's just watching. He's been watching Spider-Man for a while now. Ever since he ran away. He walked away from Spider-Man after their confrontation in front of the jackal. He's just been watching him. How sloppy he is. How bad he is at hiding who he is. He watched him change on a rooftop. How can this be the thing that beat him? So he just watches. Scene ends. It's over. Nothing crazy happens from it. But it's, there's something going on there. Then we see a little quick Spider-Man scene. Spider-Man's going around town until he finds the Jackal again. He finds him. They have a very quick fight. Jackal doesn't get any real offense off because Peter's just kind of ready to go. He doesn't really want to be there in this fight. He wants to help people. But he doesn't really want to keep doing this. He doesn't want to keep fighting today. He's done enough. He's done. So he pretty quickly wraps things up, ties Jackal up in some webs, sticks him to a wall, calls the police. Blah, blah, blah. Anonymously a Spider-Man. And as he's waiting, he's like, "When I hear sirens, I'll leave." So he sits and he waits. And we get 5 or so seconds of him just sitting there. Not a whole lot going on, just him sitting, just him waiting. We hear sirens. Peter gets up. His spider senses start freaking out. He's tingly, he's worried. But he's like, "I don't trust these. Whatever." So as he turns, he starts walking away. The senses don't stop. He's like slapping at his neck until a tranq dart hits him. And he's like, oh. Fuck. We don't actually get to hear the fuck. And he falls. And it's pretty obvious to the viewer and to Peter who that was, as Kraven steps over him, walks over him. We see his boots. We see Peter's eyes go up. Sloppy vision. All Kraven has to say is, "You're sloppy." That's that. Peter passes out. And then we see a scene of Kraven taking the jackal, carrying him away, and that's the end of that. Then we have a day pass. A whole day, whole 24 hours passes. And May's confused. May doesn't know where Peter is, so she calls Harry. Harry has no clue where Peter is. They call Jameson. Jameson hasn't heard from Peter in a minute. It's been about a week since they did any work together. Don't know. They call Miles Warren, because maybe Peter went and conversated with him about Gwen. No reaction by Warren. Until a news thing pops up, and May sees that Miles Warren was found dead. Shit. He was also a huge monster, but we're more so focused on the him being dead thing. And then more stuff comes out about how Kraven the Hunter has been taking out all the big problems in the city. And J. Jonah Jameson goes on live TV and he rants about that. He rants about how it's helpful, but it would be more helpful if Kraven handled the real big bad of the city, Spider-Man. Which, it doesn't go super over well. 50-50, you know, some people love him, some people hate him. Different reactions. But they're waiting and they don't know where Peter is. They call the police. Captain Stacy immediately gets on it. It's like, got it, cool, gonna figure it out. Anything for Peter, love that kid. And they put out missing person posters, and they do this, and this, and they talk. All that happens. And it's been maybe 10 minutes of on-screen time, and we haven't seen Peter. We haven't seen Spider-Man, we haven't seen Peter, any of that. And then we finally go to a black screen. And we hear Peter coughing. He wakes up, he's coughing, and he looks around and it's just dark. There's nothing. He's in his suit. We hear him yank his mask off, and then we get what is a fairly hard to look at scene in the sense of it just being really dark, but I think it'd be really interesting artistically. Peter is in his suit, takes the mask off, breathes out, and it's not easier to breathe. And he doesn't know why. He feels to his right, there's a wall. So he feels to his left, there's a wall. He feels down with his feet, there's a wall. Above him, there's a wall. Up, wall, down, he's boxed in. He doesn't know where he is. He has no idea. And then he coughs again. He realizes his oxygen's low, he feels around, feels an opening, but there's no oxygen flow, just an opening of the box. He pushes on it, and it doesn't really move. It's heavy. It could open, but it's just so heavy. He feels the other side, and there's no opening. He feels beneath him, and he is confused, takes the glove off. We hear him feeling around again. Soft. Why is it soft? Peter coughs again, and then throughout this, the screen has been getting lighter, still extremely dark, but you can see a vague outline of Peter's face. You can see a vague outline of like his shoulder. You can see what he's doing, just not detailed. And Peter coughs again. Then he coughs, and he coughs, and he coughs, and he's slowly falling. He's not gonna be able to survive this much longer. He is dying. He's dying. Peter slowly puts it together, and he realizes what he's in, but not where he's at. He's in a coffin. He has no idea where he is, but he's in a coffin. And he slowly starts punching the roof. Over and over and over. And it breaks. Dirt falls in. He coughs again. The screen goes black. And then we hear a liquidy sound, movement of something that's slimy, something that's gross. We hear it slithering. We see the vague outline of his face change from a face to just a shape. It's black, it's dark, that's all there is. We continue to hear him punching and punching and punching. And then the screen goes black and zooms out to reveal all this dirt and then come up over him. He's been buried alive in this coffin. And then the camera slowly tilts from a sky view down. And we see that he's buried on top of Ben's grave. He's buried on top of Uncle Ben's grave. Peter doesn't know this, but we as the audience do, and we know it's going to be a problem. Peter slowly climbs out, now in this black suit. He climbs out and he grabs at his chest, he starts coughing again, takes his mask off. Well, he reaches up to take the mask off, but the mask pulls itself down. Peter looks at his hands, looks around, turns, sees where he's buried. He sees the name, he sees Ben Parker. And we see a face we've never seen on Peter. Pure anger. The mask climbs back over him, and he does not swing. He just leaps onto a building, leaps from that one. He just runs and jumps and runs and jumps, and he is very, very unhappy. Then, we cut from that into a scene where we're introduced to somebody who was brought in by Captain Stacy, somebody who is an informant, former cat burglar, Felicia Hardy, formerly known as the Black Cat. She talks with the family about who Peter is, what they can use to find him, blah, 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 blah. And she very quickly puts a couple things together. She doesn't pick up that he's Spider-Man or anything crazy, but she picks up there's like oddities in how he acts. She's like, okay, cool, I can work with this, thank you. She goes looking for him. And then we spend 5 or so minutes with her asking questions. She asks questions to J. Jonah Jameson. She asks questions to former high school teachers. She asks a couple questions to Harry, a couple questions to May. She asks these questions to people. She asks Captain Stacy a couple questions. She goes to the hospital, asks people their stuff about Peter. She asks pretty much everybody everything she can, but she can't figure it out. She gets frustrated, and then we see her decide that she needs to get some steam off. And we see her dress up as the Black Cat. We see her go around. We see her beat the fuck out of some criminals. Until she gets into a tussle with Kraven, who she puts up a fight against, but he wins. He does not kill her or anything. She's not something to be hunted, right? She's just a person. He shuts her off, leaves. And then following this, she finds Spider-Man in an alleyway. Peter is holding a guy up. The mask is on. It is not revealing who he is. He's got the guy, the collar grabbed up against the wall, and he's just screaming at him. Where's Kraven? Where's Kraven? Where's Kraven? Slams the guy to the wall. He's being rough. He hasn't killed anybody. He's not going to do anything crazy. But he's slamming this guy into the wall while screaming. Black Cat runs up, tries to, separate them because she's not a bad guy, okay? She goes up to separate them. Peter doesn't hit her in any way, shape, or form. But he turns, tells her not to touch him, and she's a little confused. That is the shape of Spider-Man's mask. Those are the eye shape. Spider-Man doesn't wear black. Spider-Man doesn't wear black. It's not a thing. And then Peter knocks the guy out, lays him down, turns, and they have a little bit of a talk. Who are you? Right? Who the fuck are you? Black Cat. Blah, blah, blah. They have a little dialogue. And then Peter rolls his eyes, rubs his eyes. And he's like, I can't deal with another crazy person with powers in the city, so please tell me you're on my side. She expresses that she doesn't have powers. And also that she is literally working with the cops. This leads to Peter not being super happy, but being less pissed. He turns to her and goes, okay, cool, maybe you can help me. Where's Kraven? And she's very quick to be like, oh, I actually saw him earlier. He beat the fuck out of me. And then they decide, cool, we can do something together. Great. Let's find this asshole. And then we have them looking for stuff. We have them sneaking into a thing and her teaching him how to do that. Teaching him how to be stealthy. Teaching him how to sneak. Teaching him how to break and entering without doing too much illegal stuff. Peter's like, okay, cool, you work with the cops, but you do that. She's like, I used to be a cat burglar. It's a whole thing. He's like, cat burglar, black cat, very fitting. Anyways. And he's kind of, he feels when he's talking like he wants to make jokes, but he physically can't. He's like trying to be himself, and it's not working. It's not working. Peter is a little unhappy with all this. He is like, cool, whatever, just help me figure out how to get to Kraven so I can do my thing. She's like, great, cool, glad you bring him in. We'll probably need your help with something else. We have a missing person. We think it's linked to him, so we need you to help with that too. She expresses who this missing person is because Peter's like, okay, fuck, who is it? Please don't be May. Please don't be May. Please don't be May. Please don't be May. It's some kid who just graduated high school. He's like, God, please don't be Harry. Please don't be Harry. Please don't be Harry. Yeah, Peter Parker? He's like, oh, me. He does not tell her that, but he expresses that he's pretty sure the kid's okay. She doesn't really get it, doesn't put two and two together immediately or anything, but she understands that he doesn't think it's that big of a problem at the moment. The focus on the Kraven thing, blah, blah, blah. Then they have a quick back and forth while they're waiting for information to present itself on this computer. They're waiting for it to load and all that. She expresses how much she appreciates the hope that Spider-Man brings. How much she appreciates what he is. He doesn't really understand that and asks her to explain, and she does. She expresses that she was in a very rough spot and that she did these bad things, and then she heard that somebody like Spider-Man was out there in the same state, the same city as her, doing the right thing, and it changed who she is and what she does. That she dropped everything, she turned herself in, she worked on fixing stuff, and then following that, now she's an informant, now she's this professional worker for them. And she's been helpful in that she's been saving people. She's been helping with all this stuff. And that it's all thanks to Spider-Man. Peter apologizes for being rough. He apologizes for being dismissive. He expresses that he just hasn't felt himself in a while. And then he says, let's figure this out. And then maybe we can talk about this Black Cat Spider-Man thing. The idea of them working together more, wahoo! So they figure out the information, they figure out where Kraven's going to be, and they find him. He's in a sewer. This is where he's been capturing and taking all of the people he's found. There's the Grizzly, there's the Jekyll, Jackal. And then there is, oh no, Weasel's there, Grizzly's there, the rat guy, I can't remember the name of, he's there. There's just a bunch of these guys there, and they're caged, just down in the sewer. And they go down there, and they're like, okay, cool, we found them. Where's Kraven? A bunch of darts go flying because they mess with the trap. Peter, now knowing to listen to his like instincts, he's like, okay, I can trust them, they're not the problem. He does. He listens to them, he does it. Out of the way, protects her, protects them. Then he sees Kraven, and it's not a fight. There is not a fight happening at all. He goes for him, and he just batters him. Kraven does not get anything in. He stabs Peter in the gut. Peter doesn't react to it at all. He just pounds him, punches him, kicks him, takes him down to the ground, punch, and he's just hitting him, and 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 he just keeps hitting Kraven. He's hitting him, and he's not screaming, he's not even talking, he's not grunting, he's just hitting him, and hitting him, and hitting him, and after a certain amount of time, Black Cat comes over and pulls him off, and is like, okay, yeah, he understands that you're not, this isn't you, this isn't Spider-Man. This isn't my hero. And he stops, he looks at his hands, which are covered in Kraven's blood. He looks at Kraven. He is very, very angry, and he wants, he knows he can't, but he wants so badly to go over there and finish it. He wants to so fucking bad. He settles for tying him up and calling the police. He webs his hand to a pipe, webs the other one up, webs his mouth shut, makes sure there's room for, like, breathing out of the nose. And then he gets down, and he says, you're going to prison for a long time. And if you ever hurt anyone ever again. And then he just walks away. That's all he says. And then on a rooftop, we see Spider-Man and Black Cat sitting, and they're waiting. Peter has cleaned his hands, and he's a little flabbergasted. He waits. He apologizes for being negative. He doesn't know where that came from. He doesn't know what came over him. He's never done that before. Ever. He's had little bouts of it. You know, we've with the goblin, he freaked out, but, like, he's never done that. He doesn't know what that was. Felicia is very quick to be like, I understand. It happens. Anger issues. He's like, I don't have anger issues. I don't know what that was. And he's almost scared of himself in a way. Felicia's like, I get it. I went to prison. I understand things happen. And then they talk for a bit, and Felicia expresses that now that we've handled the Kraven thing, we should talk about the Peter Parker thing. We have to find him. You're the only person I know who knows anything about the Kraven stuff. Maybe you could help. Yeah, about that. I know that he's, okay. How would you know he's okay? And Peter sighs. He says, because he's Spider-Man. And he's not really excited to give that information away. My light died. He's not excited to give that information away again. Last time he gave that information away, dear God, did bad things happen to Gwen Stacy. But he says that, reaches to take the mask off, the mask itself droops down. He's a little confused by it, but he doesn't think too rough of it. Not too much. Special suit or some shit. He's not thinking straight, he's pissed, he's angry. And she's like, okay, cool, great, awesome. She doesn't say it like that. Obviously she has better written down. I'm not a fucking writer. I'm a producer. Suck my balls. But this happens, and she's like, oh, did they, the people who called me to fight, did they know? He's like, Harry and May know. Don't tell anyone. She's like, okay, cool, great, awesome. We then get a scene of Peter, Harry, and May talking back and forth. He explains everything that happened. They are both terrified for him. Let me fix my light. They are terrified for Peter. They express how worried they were, how mad they were that they didn't know what happened, and how they both expected to never see him again. And he is not happy about that feeling for them. He is obviously against the idea of them having to deal with that again. He expresses that it won't happen again. It happened because he was being dumb. Because he wasn't trusting himself, because he wasn't trusting his instincts, because he didn't believe in himself. But that's not a thing anymore. He's better, he's stronger, he's faster, he's smarter, he's ready, he's okay. He says, I don't know where all these guys keep coming from. And not just these guys that came from Warren in his lab. I don't. Kraven and Goblin and Shocker and Mysterio and I don't know. And I don't know why I got this, but I promise it won't happen. I won't. He pauses, he grabs at his leg, he's having a hard time saying this. He says he won't let it happen to anyone else. Spider-Man won't let it. And then they share a hug. He hugs Harry, he hugs May, he hugs the both of them. In walks Captain Stacy, who is, he's not gonna interrupt them, but he takes his hat off and he waits. He waits a minute. They stop hugging. Peter turns to Captain Stacy, gets up and runs and hugs him. And Captain Stacy, slow, like dad style, like, oh my, okay, well I guess you need this. Which is fine and dandy and good. Peter apologizes for the misdirection of him disappearing and everything. He apologizes. He should have made it more abundantly clear. Obviously, Harry, May, they know what happened. Felicia knows what happened. But Captain Stacy is unaware of all of that. He says, yeah, it's okay, kid. I get it. Lots going on. I'm sorry that you're dealing with a lot. But, no, we're always here for you. And then he walks off. And then he gets a call that he is needed. He's needed. Yeah, we need you, boss, in the sewer. Somebody found Kraven. The cops were sent down there by Spider-Man and by Black Cat. And Black Cat being a police informant is going to add some drama, because now she's working for Captain Stacy, who wants Spider-Man captured, while also being affiliated with Spider-Man as the Black Cat, and knowing who he is and everything. Very, very much going to have some drama there. But for now, we go to the sewer, and there's a bunch of cops, there's caution tape, and it pans over, and we see the outline of Kraven. We don't see an up close of him, but we see an outline. We know he's there. We then get a really abrupt camera shot up to his face, and he's beaten up, he's got a couple slices on him from being punched a lot, he's got some bruising, and that's like, oh, okay. And then it zooms out from his cheek, shows his eyes, which are hollow. They're empty, glossy, they almost seem fake. And for a split second, the audience is thinking, oh my god, Peter killed him. For a split second, the audience is thinking that Peter's caused this, that Peter has killed Kraven. Then it zooms out more, showing how battered his face is, but more importantly, it shows a gaping hole in his chest. Like, that big, huge fucking hole in his chest. And it's leaking a green liquid. And then as it zooms away, everyone's distraught, right? These police officers are fucking blown away by this. It's like, well, those are webs, so Spider-Man was here. I don't think that was Spider-Man. And they're correct, it wasn't. And then we see, very faintly, in the background of the sewer, we see what seems to be some sort of man in a suit rather than a creature scurrying away. As we see his tail whip around the corner, we see that it's got like a big globule on the end and a pokey bit. It's Scorpion. It's Scorpion. It's Scorpion. It's Scorpion. It's Scorpion. We see him scurry away, and that's that. Poof. Credits, baby. Credits go. That's the end of our movie for now until we get our mid and post credit scenes. Mid credit scene is just a joke bit. It's Felicia making a joke about how cats eat spiders. That's all it is. It's just Felicia and Peter sat down there eating, and then we have a joke about how cats be eating spiders. Haha. You could interpret it as her threatening him, or a sex joke, or something in between. It's a joke. Ha ha ha. Then we have more credits until the post-credit scene, which took me a while to come up with, so hopefully it's not dog ass. We see J. Jonah Jameson. He's sat in his office, he's in front of his desk, he's waiting for something. In walks a man, who we don't get to see a whole lot of. We see his hand come in, they shake, he says, "My name's Edward Brock Jr., very obvious who that is. The camera pans, shows a fairly large fella, blonde hair, blah blah blah. He shakes his hand, he says, "I'm here to handle that spider problem you have." Obviously, he's talking about Spider-Man. He's being journalistic. He's not going to, punch Spider-Man in the face or anything. Eddie, she's saying he's wearing all black. Eddie shakes his hand. He expresses how important he thinks this job is, how much he doesn't like these vigilantes and what they're doing to this beautiful city, and that he's sorry that Jonah has had to put up with that. And then he apologizes for coming in late. He was actually supposed to be here a few days ago. The joke is that the time he should have been there is when Peter got the black suit. He's Venom, blah, 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 whatever. And that's where we end it for now. I'm proud of that. I am. I sound inquisitive or confused about it because I'm bad at being happy with things that I make. But there's that. Peter is both in a better and a worse place than he was. He is in a better place because he has friends. He has Harry and he has Felicia, and he's talking with them. And he has a positive relationship with both of them. He is going to college. He doesn't know what for at this moment, but he's going to go. He's going to go with Harry, and it's going to be all expenses paid. He's not going to have to worry about that. He's not going to worry about May having to worry about that. Him and May have a really solid relationship, and one where he can ask for help and he can expect her to know what to do in a way that he hasn't felt since Ben's death. But on top of that, Peter is angrier. He is different. Something about everything going on around him, something about this suit is changing who he is, or rather bringing out parts of him that he's good at not having out. He is growing, but he doesn't know what he's growing into. Not just yet. Action-wise, I tried to keep a lot of it a little more basic, because I feel like especially the first pitch of these I did, I was very much like, I'm going to express this action scene by the exact actions. It's like this happens, and then this happens, and this is the reaction to it. And I think that's fine. But I think because these videos aren't, like, edited and there's no, like, visual, I feel like that becomes almost too much information. And I think narrowing it down a little here was helpful. And obviously, if this was a movie, that stuff would be better. Like, the back and forth of, like, UI Spider-Man versus Kraven would be a lot more intriguing if it was put together by somebody who knows choreography and stuff. I don't. Similarly, for, like, the pitches of, like, writing stuff, I don't know how to write dialogue. I'm working on my first comic book, so I can learn how to do that. But, like, you know, if it was written by somebody who's a writer, it would be better. So I apologize for any of those lacking things. And then with the fight stuff, I feel like in those first three, I think I was trying way too hard on the action stuff. And I think here I tried to dial that back. And also, it's like the Vulture flew. Mysterio held those, like, vision stuff and, like, fake stuff and whatnot. Shocker had, like, his gauntlets. Goblin could fly and was a giant monster, and I felt like I was moving things away from the basics too much. So with Kraven, I tried to keep it to, like, most of what he did was, like, hand-to-hand stuff. And I'll experiment with more stuff with the next episode, blah, 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 blah. But for now, that's where we're caught up to. If you enjoyed it, like the video, share it with your friends. Go down there to that red button that says subscribe. Press the one beside it to turn on the notifications. Or don't. You don't have to. I'm not going to tell you what to do. If you're interested in talking with me, like-minded individuals, or other friends and or members of the channel, go down into the description and go to the community Discord. It'll be the top link. If you haven't seen the rest of these pitches, they will be up there. One of these, there will be little eye thingy, and inside of that will be the playlist. Alongside here will be episode 1 and the playlist, and then here's the channel. Thank you guys so much for your time, for your support. Thank you so much for likes, comments, all that. You guys make this all worth it and make it all one of the greatest parts of my life. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time. I love you guys, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.